Welcome to IELTS with Rob. Okay. In this part, we will be discussing about the reading section, and most students uh, they find reading quite a bit difficult. This is because they don't practice beforehand, and reading they find quite boring. And comparative to other students who have a habit of reading novels from other books and magazines, they find reading quite simple, quite easy. Fun. Okay. So in this section, let's talk about ways to improve our reading score in the IELTS exam. So at first, we need to discuss about the reading, different formats of reading. So in reading, which will take place for an hour in an IELTS test, will have multiple different types of questions. So one of the question is MCQs or multiple choice question, uh, in which a question is asked and different options are given. And you have to choose the correct answer. Another type of question in the reading is the short answer questions, where you have to give your answer in a word or a two to answer the question. Another type of question is sentence completion, and where you have to complete a given sentence based on the information derived from the reading passage. And another type of question we have here is notes, summary, table, flowchart completion. Again, we have to complete these questions by piece of information derived from the passages. Another type of question is the labeling a diagram, where we have to name different parts of image an image. Another question type would be choosing headings for paragraphs or sections. Here, based on the information in a passage or paragraph, you have to name or title the passage. Another type of question is the locating information, where you have to find a specific type of information from the passage, maybe date of birth or some names or etc. Another type of question is identification of writer's views or of information. That means you have to identify the writer's attitudes or opinions on the given topic. And similarly, there are questions related to classification where you have to classify the items or matching where you have to find a suitable pair of the given question words. Thereafter, let's look over the format for the reading passage. The time allocated for reading would be 60 minutes. And in that time, you have to read the question and write the answer on the answer sheet. There would be no extra time to transfer your answer since you will write directly on the answer sheet, unlike in the listening section. Now, the total number of questions would be 40, and one question will bear 1 marks. There will be no negative marking, means it's always good to answer whatever you know or based on whatever you have understood and never leave a blank in an IELTS exam. So there would be no negative marking, and in total, there would be three different reading passages. You would have 1 hour to answer the questions from three different passages. And it's up to you to start answering from passage 3 first, and passage 1, and followed by passage 2, or in any order of the reading passages, depending upon your competence or uh, easiness, or whichever you are comfortable with. But remember to write your answer to the corresponding number of questions related to that passage. Okay, that means you have to write your answer in the corresponding numbers on the answer sheet. That means don't write answer to question number 5 in number 10 on the answer sheet. For answer of question number 5, you have to write your answer on number 5 blank on the answer sheet. Similarly, each passage would have 13 to 14 questions. Each text or passage can be around 900 words long. Texts cover wide fields like medicine, environment, technology, work, etc. So always follow the instructions. For example, if the question is saying write your answer in no more than 2 words and or a number, then your answer could be either 1 word, 2 words, one number, 1 word plus one number, or 2 words plus one number. Okay. So your answers could be only these, and except that, all other answers would be what? Wrong. So based on your instructions, you can easily make sure which answers might be right. You can easily predict, or you can easily eliminate the wrong answer without even reading the information given in the passage. So just by reading the instructions, you can eliminate the wrong answers based on their eligibility of the number of words or numbers. So time management. In reading passage sections, you have 3 different passages. Okay? And there are passage 1, passage 2, and passage 3. And you can start answering from any passage. You can start with any passages with which you are familiar. Okay? It is better to always start with the passage that is relevant to your field of expertise or something you are more familiar with. For example, here we have 3 different passages. One is on history, one is on politics, and another is on science. For example, if I was a student of politics, I would begin from answering passage 3 questions rather than history, although politics is in passage 2. So if I start answering from politics or passage 2, then my answer should be written on the answer sheet on number 20. Okay, I have to begin from number 20 and not number 1 in the answer sheet. That means my answer should be written in the corresponding number. Okay, it should not be written in number 1. You have to write in the corresponding number. Like 20, for 20, you have to write in where? You have to write in 20 number blanks. Okay, 29, you have to write in 29 number blanks. Even though I started with the politics questions first, it doesn't mean in the answer sheet, it's answer sheet, not answer key. So it's in the answer sheet. It doesn't mean you have to write in number 1. Okay, you have to write in number 20. blanks up to number 20. Okay, not number one. Because you started, although even though you started with politics first, but its question will start from question number 20. And so you have to put your answer in question number 20 and so on up to 29 and not 1. Okay. Then after, depending upon which passage you are going to attempt, you are going to should have to put your answer in the corresponding blanks, okay, corresponding number in your answer sheet. So don't mismatch. Put the answer to a question to that corresponding number, okay, not in another number. So another thing is scoring. Total points will be rounded into the nearest band score possible. For example, 5.5, 6.5, or 7.0. You will not have a score of any other numbers like 2.2, zero point 0.2, or 0.25, or 0.75, or 0.65, or 0.35. You will not have those numbers. You either have half number or a complete full number. So it could be 5.5, 6.5, or 7.0. It cannot be 6.2 or 7.35. And now we will talk about skills that is needed for the reading section. Number one is main idea versus supporting details. For example, Ram is a good boy, period. He wakes up at 6 a.m. in the morning every day. Then he goes to the temple and gives some alms to the poor. Every weekend, he goes to an orphanage and donates some food to the children there. Also, he sometimes pays visits to the elderly homes and distributes some clothes and medicines to the older people there. Therefore, Ram is a benevolent person. Now, here I have underlined Ram is a good boy, the very first sentence of this paragraph. And I've also underlined the very last sentence of this paragraph, that is, therefore, Ram is a benevolent person. So, the main idea, what do you think is the main idea of this paragraph? So the main idea of this paragraph, usually of a paragraph, resides in the first and the last sentence 80% of the time. That means in this paragraph, if you read the first sentence, that is, Ram is a good boy, and the last sentence, that is, therefore, Ram is a benevolent person, then you will come to know that the paragraph, the summary of the paragraph, or the main idea of the paragraph is what? Ram is a good person. And if you read all these sentences in between the first sentence and the last sentence of this paragraph, then you will come to realize soon that all of the sentences are supporting the main idea in one way or the other. Okay. So these sentences that comes between the first line and last line of a paragraph are called what? Supporting details. So in this way, by reading the first and the last lines of a paragraph, you can figure out the main idea of a given paragraph. Now, another skills that are required for reading are scanning and skimming. Scanning. So what is scanning? For example, if your test score is just published in the newspaper, would you be interested in reading all other news in the paper, or would you just move to the column where there lies your result? Of course, you'll just be looking at your scores, right? Your name and scores. When you just browse through the paper or the literature quickly, but you are not interested in all of the text, but instead you are just looking for a particular information, is called what? scan. So scanning is like finding a date of birth or a name of a person in a passage, reading passage. You don't have to understand the passage at all. You don't have to read line by line. You just need to move your move your eyeballs throughout the text and just look for that number or names. So that process is called what? Scanning. Whereas skimming, on the other hand, for example, is used when you are reading a paragraph, but you want to read it quickly just to get an overall idea of the passage. So skimming is like reading briefly and reading rapidly from top to bottom of a paragraph or passage just to get the glimpse or idea or gist of what is all this paragraph or reading passage is about. So that is called what? Skim. So these both scanning and skimming are done very rapidly, quickly, moving your eyeballs through the text, but they are not done slowly or not going into too much detail. They are just done superficially and quickly to get the information you want. Okay? So these are like time-saving techniques that you will be using a lot in the reading section of an IELTS test. Now, here is another skills or strategy that you need to adopt in order to get a very good score in reading. That is useful for sentence completion type of question. For example, there is a like a fill in the blanks type of question, and you come across slide number one. There is a dash on the plate, is the question. Now, on that blank, you need to guess what you need. Whether you need a noun, whether you need a verb or adjective, adverb, date of birth, or a phone number. You have to figure it out. But when you look closely, you will see that there is an article or in front of the blank. That's that already gives you a hint that the word in the blank should not be a number or a date of birth or adjective or adverb or a verb either. And that leaves with only the choice of being it a noun. Therefore, from the options that have been provided, we should check for or scan for nouns. And in the option, we think we can see that except eating, all other words are what? Nouns. Now, from here, going grammatically, we can see that the last option, the fifth option that is eating is a verb, and clearly it is not an answer. So grammatically, being grammatically right, we can say that five number answer or eating cannot be your correct answer. That leaves with the options from 1 to 4 grammatically. But now we come to our second strategy, that is logically, being logically correct. So when it comes to logical, you can see that something on the plate could only be some sort of food. It could not be a book or a mouse or a house. That leaves with an option of what? A cake. That is what it means. It is called to be what? Logically right. Because logically, only a cake can sit on the plate and not a book or a house or a mouse. And finally, we should also make sure that our answers are what? Rhythmically right. So, what does it mean to be rhythmically correct? Let's see through this example. Now, in this example, we can see that the question is like the address is da 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 street, comma London. Okay? And now the options you have are number one, North Ridge Street, and number two is the North Ridge. And The answer that is correct is number two, that is North Ridge. Because you see in option one, we have here North Ridge Street. And since street is already provided in the answer in the question, we don't use one as an our option because if we use that, there will be two streets, and that would not sound normal or that would not sound being rhythmically correct. Therefore, we go for the second choice, that is North Ridge. This way, we choose the correct answer. Now, we come across another question type, that is finding a suitable heading for a paragraph. So, in the questions, you will be given different paragraphs. Let's say 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, in the options, you will have different headings. And usually, the headings are more in number than the number of paragraphs. That means you will have more wrong headings than that are required for the paragraphs. That means some of these headings are wrong. So if you start first reading headings and then go for the searching the paragraph as shown by the yellow arrow, then that method is wrong because you might end up wasting a lot of time in searching for the correct paragraphs because the paragraphs relevant to that headings does not exist. Therefore, the correct order in order to solve these type of questions would be from reading the paragraph and choosing the correct headings. That way you will save time. Now, another question type would be summary of a paragraph. Summary of a paragraph is usually in the first line and the last, here fifth line of a paragraph. Same can be used for answering the following questions like main idea, suitable heading for the paragraph, suitable title for the paragraph, a summary of the paragraph. So answer to these questions can be found by just reading the first line and the last line of a paragraph. 80% of the time, if you follow these rules, you will save time and you can answer questions to uh, queries like main idea, suitable heading for the paragraph, suitable title, or summary of the paragraph, just by reading the first and the last line of a paragraph. Now, global MCQs questions. Usually, global MCQs questions means you have to find the overall summary of this passage, overall author's purpose of this passage. It's not relevant to a particular paragraph like we discussed in the MCQs questions before. So global MCQs questions usually come in question number 13, 26, and 40. So in order to find the answer to the global MCQs, you have to summarize the individual paragraphs. Like here we have done for paragraphs 1, 2, 3, and 4. So once you come up with summary of individual paragraphs, then you have to sum the partial summaries of all of these paragraphs to come to the global MCQ's answer or the global summary of this whole passage. You just need to add the summary of the individual paragraphs to answer the global MCQ's question. Now, another important question in reading that most of us or most of the students they make errands is in yes no not given questions and true, false, not given questions. First, you need to understand what types of questions are these. Usually, yes, no, not given questions are based on text that are opinion based. Okay, so yes, no, not given questions will be asked in opinion types of text. For example, I think it will rain tonight. It's just a thinking. It's just an assumption. It's just an opinion. And these types of text, uh, the questions based on these types of text would be like yes, no, and not given. But on the other hand, if the text is based on certain facts or reality or truth, for example, there is increase in global warming these days. Sun rises in the east, the sun sets in the west, the earth is round. These types of text, the questions from these types of text would be of the type true, false, and not given. So you don't need to worry whether the text is based on opinion or text is based on facts. All you need to do is to follow the instructions. So if the instruction says write yes, no, not given, then don't write true for yes or false for no. Okay. Do as the instructions suggest you. Like if it says write yes, then write yes. If it says no, then write no. Don't write true for yes or yes for true, and similarly false for no or no for false, or vice versa. Okay? Otherwise, you will end up losing score. And most of the students, they also try to use the short forms. Like they just write Y for yes and N for no, or true for T for true, or F for false. And this is also not correct unless and until, or NG for not given, unless and until it is instructed clearly in the question. It is mentioned clearly in the instructions. Otherwise, it will be wrong. There is a high chance that it will be wrong, 80% chance that it will be wrong. So don't do that. Please don't do that. Otherwise, you will lose scores. And remember, yes, no, not given, and true, false, not given type of questions. This is the very, 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 very important type of questions in reading. And this is the only question that can help you on your scores up to 2 bands. Okay, you can improve your reading score by 2 bands just answering this question correctly. Okay, if you just follow the instructions, there is a very significant chance that you will end up increasing your reading scores by 2 bands. For example, because the questions might come anywhere now ranging from 2 questions to 11 questions of this type. So, for example, if you are getting already obtaining band 5 in reading, and if you answer these questions correctly, then you might end up in band 7. Okay. And on the reverse, if you are of band 7 and if you answer these questions incorrectly, then you might lose 2 bands and you might fall in band 8. Okay. So don't uh, underestimate this type of questions and follow it as per the instructions. Now, choose the correct letters. So this is another type of question. And here it is clearly mentioned in the instruction that you need to choose a letter and not a word. Most of us think that we can write anything in an IELTS exam if it is true, but that's not real. Here it is written, write the correct letters. And the question is, what is the capital of Portugal? And although you might know Lisbon is the correct answer, but if you just write Lisbon, then that might be wrong. There is a high chance, 80% chance, that it might be wrong. It might not get the correct score that it needs. And because you failed to follow the instructions. And the best way to earn a score or secure your score is to write the letter A, okay, and follow the instructions. Now, let's learn something about the paraphrasing techniques. Okay? So, if you know paraphrasing techniques, that will help you improve your writing score, your speaking score, as well as your listening score, as well as reading score. So, on in other words, paraphrasing is the essential foundation, one of the essential foundation or pillars for the IELTS test. Okay. So, what are these paraphrasing techniques? First, let's recap what is paraphrasing. Paraphrasing means saying the same thing or same information, but in different words or different structure, grammatical structure. Okay. So there are different techniques you can use for paraphrasing. Okay. Number one, synonyms. Example, elegant is the same as saying what? Beautiful. Industrious is the same as saying hardworking. So they will be used uh, alternatively, or they will be used to misguide you or fool you or confuse you in the IELTS test, either in the reading section or the listening section. So try to understand the synonyms, try to understand the meaning of these words, and try to identify whether these two words are same or different in both the listening as well as speaking reading sections. Another technique of paraphrasing is active voice versus passive voice. For example, Ram kicked a ball is an active voice, and a ball was kicked by Ram is the passive voice. The same information is being presented in different forms, different grammatical structure. Another way of paraphrasing is the use of pronoun or reference. For example, Ram is a good boy. He likes helping poor. Okay. Now, he is a pronoun we used for Ram. Although the both statements is correct, but the pronoun is substituting the noun this time and sounds different. So please bring me my books, comma, the books that I gave you yesterday. So the books that I gave you yesterday is referencing to those books and not other books. So these are the things which you can use for reference. Another technique for paraphrasing is noun to verb and verb to noun, and conversion of adjective to adverb and adverb to adjective. For example, noun to verb, get the food microwaved is the verb form, but put the food into into microwave is a noun. Okay, so you can get the same information by using different grammatical structures. Again, adjective to adverb we can use for paraphrasing are techniques like people usually appreciate football players who play skillfully. That skillfully is adverb, and you can convert it into another structure or another grammatical sentence like skillful footballers are often praised. You see how skillfully adverb has been converted to adjective skillful footballers. Right? So try to get the idea throughout these different sections in the IELTS. Try to find out whether the idea being presented in the reading passage or in an audio is same as those in the questions. Are they same or different? If they are same, then the answer is what? The statement is correct or true. If they are different, then that is false. Okay. And another technique that is required in the reading section is speed reading. The more you can read speedily, the more your chances of getting greater scores in the IELTS reading section. That means practice, 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 practice the right way, right techniques, and right courses in the right format, and you'll definitely succeed. Speed reading means you have to read as many times as you can. Usually, I would suggest in my class to break up 1 hour time of speaking into three parts, that is 20 minutes each for three different passages. And always first attempt the passage which you are familiar with, maybe passage 2, passage 3, passage 1. You can start with either of these passages, any of these passages. And whichever passage you start with, you have to give each passage 20 minutes of time. And in these 20 minutes, you have to two tasks to perform. One is answer the question, and one is reading the passage. So at first, read the questions, try to underline the important verbs, important words or keywords. Then after, try to read the passage very fast, very quickly, speedily, 3 or 4 times. And ultimately read it very slowly and try to understand word by word, underlining the words. And now try to tally the keywords you have underlined in the question with the words you have underlined in the passage and try to see if the ideas match. If the ideas match, then that must be your answer. And if it doesn't match, then that is the wrong answer. Okay. With that saying, I will end up my reading section here. I hope I answered all of your queries or concerns. If you have any questions, any queries, please write on the comment section in the comment section and follow for more for other sections. And best wishes. Thank you so much. And see you in the next episode.